All right, you can definitely tell the Corsair project is definitely moving along now. If you remember from the previous video, we did the weathering on the fuselage. Since then, all the decals have been applied, and then it's been sealed with a dull coat spray to kind of take the gloss level down in the decals and kind of make the surface look more uniform. In doing so, a lot of the weathering tends to kind of be lost in that process. So if you remember, I had a lot of white and light colored weathering on the upper surfaces here, and then as soon as you add the clear coat on dark blue, for whatever reason, that basically just vanishes. So but at least that's been done. So that's one thing. You can always go a little bit heavier when you're weathering like US Navy airplanes that are dark blue colored, because the clear coat will actually take a lot of that away. But in today's video, I want to cover weathering the wings. Now the wings are installed. You can either weather it with or without the wings on the airplane, doesn't really matter. And to start with, the best thing to do is use another reference picture. I will use this continual picture of Ike Kepford's number 29 here, mostly because it's a well photographed airplane. It's also got a lot of detail on the weathering on the wings. I believe the fuselage has been repainted in that particular picture, but the wings are still left very heavily weathered. Because of the number of pictures that are available of that particular airplane, it makes it a great place to use as a starting point for your research on the upper wing surfaces. You can find that picture if you don't have it in a book. You can find it anywhere online. All you do is look up Spektrum F-4U Corsair on Google Images, and you will find that picture almost instantly. It's a great reference point. So we're using the same artist pastels that we used before, and that is the this gray scale that goes everything from black down to white, and also has a little bit of brown in there as well that I've added from another set. So the wings at this point are actually already done. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover a few of the things that I did with weathering of the wings, and because it's pretty much the same as weathering the fuselage, I'm just going to cover over a few high points. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll start on the wing that's closest to the camera. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. And using the reference picture, we're going to actually just kind of go over some of the area that is weathered. The walkway area to get up into the cockpit and to fuel to add the fuel in the forward tank here is done through this area right here. And this little indentation here on the wing is actually a stepping point. There are a number of these that actually use grip tape in here. Some do not have the grip tape. I cannot tell if this particular plane had either the grip tape or not, so I actually went without it, but I did weather in some silver chipping in this area, and then quite a bit of dirt around here, and then the dirt that also leads up into the area that they'd be doing the maintenance on the forward fuel tank and the area after the engine. And then from the pictures, you can also tell that the dirt tends to kind of flow away this way into the bottom of the wing here. Gravity would, of course, do that. Because of the shape of the wing and because it's a tail dragger, you're going to kind of get everything kind of at this particular angle on how the dirt will kind of fall down into this area here. As for this area above the oil cooler, there's some ribbing that exists in this area, and that tends to chip on the high points. You can see that from the pictures of Kepford's plane. It's a lot more pronounced than it is on my model here, and the reason is because this plane hasn't flown that many combat sorties, so it's very light. So I just used a little bit of silver paint and then just kind of drew in a grid pattern and then covered over it with black charcoal. And I used the black and the gray charcoals in this area here, and it kind of toned down some of that chipping as well. Moving a little bit further down, this area here is the hinge mechanism in which the wing folds up. So you expect to find a couple little chips just around the little closing door here and around some of these pieces. But since these weren't carrier-borne Corsairs, they operated off of an island in the Pacific, their wings weren't folded up all that often, so you won't see a lot of chipping there. One area that you will see some wear is where the guns are located. So you have the three machine gun ports are here, and then the actual kind of the gun is located in this area. They are staggered The first one is closest to the wing, the last one is closest here to the flap. And these are access panels that open up. These are little, I think they're like half turn or quarter turn, probably like deuce fasteners or quick release fasteners. So there's going to be quite a bit of dirt and some chipping around there as the ground crews would pop these doors open in order to refill the ammunition and service the guns. The ammunition themselves would actually be funneled into this door here. You can see it's kind of triangular shaped, and the first one is where the this one here is where the first gun is located, the second gun is located, the third gun is located. And then there's these rectangular panels that are out here on the outboard of the wing, and these are actually the ammunition boxes. And what's interesting about the Corsair is the ammunition boxes are actually built into the top cover of the wing. So when a ground crewman would take this panel off to access the ammunition, the top of the wing goes with the door. So unlike other aircraft that just have a door that opens up and you access the ammunition, you actually can take the ammo box directly out. And for my research, if you ever need to smuggle some beer between one base and another, you could take out some of these ammunition boxes and load them with cases of beer cans and fly them to your next base. And if you fly at altitude, you will keep the beer nice and cold. So a little bit of trivia there, because that's how the Jolly Rogers actually transported their beer from one island to another when they had to switch bases. They use these ammunition boxes right here. It's interesting to note that this area out here is, there should be no chipping in here. And the reason why that is not a metallic surface. That's actually a wooden surface that's been painted over. So if you're doing any chipping, do not have any chipping on this section here, because there won't be any. This area here is metal skinned. This area here is wood. This area here is where the ammunition boxes are and access to the guns and the ammo belts. So I know this has already been done, but the process of weathering this is exactly the same as it is for the fuselage. You can use a paintbrush and a piece of cotton ball, and you simply just start weathering and adding the grease marks as needed. I always put the decals on last, that way, because if you put them on first and then you weather, a lot of times what you do is you actually get the chalk to sit up on the high points of the decal, and it doesn't really look realistic. So I added the decals last. Now that this is all done, I will use a can of Testor's Dull Coat, and I will spray over the entire wing surface. It will cut down on the gloss of the national insignia, also cut down on the gloss of all these individual placard decals that are over the ammunition boxes and gun access. In fact, this already has one layer of clear on it already, but I added some additional weathering, so it will receive one more coat as well. Last thing we want to cover on the wings before we start the next video, which will be weathering the bottom of the wings, which is not fully done, so you'll actually get a chance to see how they do that, is I want to talk about the gun ports. I've seen way too many people that have basically a solid black line that comes out of each gun port and streaks all the way back on the wing, and then it is heavy, thick, as if they're squirting oil out at their opponent. That's really not true. If you look at a lot of the pictures of the aircraft, you're only going to see a little bit of light, kind of a black color on the top here, and it does not extend all that far back. It should actually start to separate right after, kind of like where the curvature of the wing starts to dip downward, where the camber goes this way. You should actually get less, you get a little bit of a break there, and so you're not going to be able to get these solid black lines. So you just want real light weathering on the top surface. There'll be more weathering on the bottom, and I don't exactly know why that's the case, but over and over and over again in pictures, there's more oil and gun soot on the bottom than the top. So it could be a combination of aerodynamics, could be a little gravity, I don't know the exact reason, but you want to use pictures as a reference, and you'll notice that this area here is not solid black paint coming out of it. It's just a little bit of soot on there, and that's all you have to do to replicate that. And usually I just use a small piece of cotton ball here, and I add a little black, which is behind the airplane here, black charcoal, and I just simply just kind of streak it back, just ever so slightly back. Okay, and then kind of knock down the gloss a little bit, or knock down, not the gloss, but knock down the level of weathering. I just kind of streak it back a little bit with a clean cotton ball. So that's really all you need to be doing to weather the top of the wings on a Corsair. The best thing you can do is to make sure that you actually use real reference pictures of the Corsair. And even if you don't find the exact model you're duplicating, such as this particular plane here, Kepford's number 7, there's only one picture that I can find on the entire world of this particular plane, and it is of a very small section of it, and so you don't know the weathering of the wings. However, you can look at reference pictures and get an idea of how many flights did your particular airplane that you're modeling fly, how many sorties did it fly, and then find similar pictures on the internet. And don't use restored pictures, of course, for weathering areas like around the guns and the ammunition boxes, because they're not in use obviously in a restored airplane. They will be in use on a combat ready one. So my best advice for you is to make sure that you look at your research materials before you start weathering. I've seen way too many people that every panel line is solid black, the guns have solid black oil streaking all the way down the wings, and it really looks pretty poor. You can really screw a model up by over weathering it or weathering it incorrectly. So Google image or books are your absolute best source, such as this picture here is absolutely perfect. This is a great example of some real serious weathering on a combat Corsair. So use your reference materials, and I encourage using these artist pastels. And the thing I like about the pastels versus actual paint is you can layer it. You can add a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, until you look at it and you say, that's the look I'm looking for, without going too far. If you paint, chances are you're gonna go too far right away and you can't undo it. Artist chalks are a fantastic way to layer up the dirt accordingly. And when you finally look at it and you stand back and say, yep, that matches what I'm looking at in the picture, call it done. Add your clear coat over the top, and that will go ahead and seal it in. If you're doing a Navy aircraft like this one early in the war, it's going to be a dull finish. If you're going to be doing a late war solid blue Corsair, it's going to be a gloss finish. So just make sure you understand what medium you're working in, and make sure you match it accordingly to the airplane you're doing. So that wraps up the weathering of the wings on the E-flite 1.2 meter Corsair, and these tricks will work for really any warbird. It doesn't have to be just a Corsair. These tips and tricks will work for any aircraft. If you've got any questions, by all means, leave them below. And on the next video, we're gonna flip the airplane over and we're gonna get started on the bottom of the wings. And then the last step is gonna be the exhaust, and that will wrap up the weathering on this Corsair.